Hello, everyone, and welcome to SpeakUpSis Podcast. This is the place where every day women and men have an opportunity to share their stories to inspire yours. We say what you think no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to know. I'm your host, Angel Charmaine, and we are back with the Encouraging Experts segment of SpeakUpSis Podcast. This particular segment is really designed for the entrepreneur in you. This segment is designed for small businesses to be both encouraged as well as to get some feedback. So we've got an encourager, me, and we've got an expert. And last year, Charnell Williams was our expert. And I want to thank her for being my co host for an entire year. She came in and gave us all the nuts and bolts that we need to be entrepreneurs. And this year, I have a new co host. His name is CJ Benjamin, and he is a brand strategist. In fact, he's my brand strategist, and he's going to be my co host for Encouraging Experts for the 2024 Speak Up Sis podcast year. So I'm going to go ahead and bring CJ up so that you all can meet him and we can talk about what we're going to be doing with the Encouraging Expert segment this year. CJ, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me again on their podcast. But this is
Almost.
a totally new one, right?
Yes, this is totally new. Even though the Encouraging Expert segment is not new to our listeners and our viewers, what you and I are going to be doing with this segment is very different from what Charnell and I did last year. Are you ready for this?
Absolutely.
So I would like for you to take a little bit of time introducing yourself. Before we do that, I would like to say if you all are not already subscribed to the Speak Up Sis YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that. We stream live on Speak Up Sis YouTube. Make sure you click the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you can get notified when we have new episodes of Speak Up Sis Podcast. Again, if you are new to this, I'm a budding entrepreneur. Let's say that. I've been doing this for about 5 years now, maybe a little over 5 years. And I do not consider myself an expert, but in the Encouraging Experts duo, I am the encourager. And I own Speak Up Sis LLC. But you all probably know about me. You don't know much about CJ. So, CJ, if you will please let the people know a little bit about you and your background and what makes you an expert in branding. Unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you so much for having me. My name is CJ Benjamin, and I'm a brand strategist. Right, roughly 10 years, I've been helping businesses, brands of different, categories, brand build and scale. So the idea about branding, personally, I believe that the power of a brand is its global appeal. And what that means is that we try to create that thing that you can use to build a brand that people from different parts of the world can see what you're doing and appreciate it at a level, right? So what we're doing here today is to help you appreciate branding in its full totality. Probably you've heard about branding, you've seen about branding, you've seen about it, you've seen people talk about it, you've seen people do stuff that is called branding. But we want to help you grasp the full totality of it through what we're going to be doing, right? And be able to position your brand in such a way that you can feel the weight of the energy that you're giving to the word. And so the people, no matter where they are in the word, can embrace your idea, embrace your vision, and follow you through as you begin to deliver that vision for yourself and for people out there. Right. So I do branding. We help people brand, build, and scale. Brand, build, and scale. Now, it's important to understand that there are two specific, facets of branding. We call it internal branding and external branding. But what we're going to be looking into today is the external aspect of branding, where we're going to be looking at what you've done or what you're doing, and be able to provide some level of advice that you can use to redefine what you're doing or make it better, make it presentable, make it scalable. Now, here's the idea. There are three things I mentioned that we help people do: is brand, build, and scale. Now, in branding, there are two facets. One is the internal, and the second one is the external. The internal talks about your spiritual DNA as a brand. Your spiritual DNA as a brand simply talks about your brand vision, your mission, your core values, and your brand culture, right? Your brand DNA talks about your vision, your mission, your core values, and your brand culture. But there's the other aspect of it that we see every day. The internal aspect of your branding, nobody sees it. It's something that is internal. It's only you, not your customers, your team that understand this unique, DNA that you have. We call it the spiritual DNA of a brand. People don't see it, but you see it. People that come into your brick and mortar business might see where you hung your vision and your missions and your core values, but it's not something that is out there for the world to see. There is the external aspect of it, which talks about your communication, brand communication, and your brand expression. That's what people see, right? It's called your external branding. So there is internal branding, there is the external branding. So what we're going to be doing today is to look at your external branding. What are you doing? What you're building? What does it look like? Is it scalable? The truth about it is that it is your branding that determines how scalable your business is. If your branding is stunted, there is a way you brand your business, you cannot scale, you cannot expand, you cannot do something different, you cannot, tweak your idea, you cannot, bring in new visions, new expressions to what you're doing, because your branding is stunted. Your growth is stunted because the branding is not strategic. There is strategic branding. And strategic branding is the branding that appreciates the fact that your brand has to be built around scalability. Can you move from one point to another, right? It's not enough to have the vision of the brand. The vision of the brand might be something that you've written, you've hung it on your wall and all of that, but is that vision scalable? What helps your vision to be scalable is the posture of your branding. You can brand your business in such a way that it cannot go further. It cannot go beyond what you've already instituted. So what we're trying to do here today is to help you critique your branding and then help you position in such a way that your brand can be scaled from where you are to another point. Right. So that's what we're doing here today. I want you to sit tight. We're going to show you case studies of what has been done and how a brand has transitioned from one point to another, from point A to point B, because the brand understood that vision is not enough. I need to position my brand in such a way that I can scale the vision, I can scale the brand. I'm not just trying to run a vision. I'm running something that is going to stand the test of time. So we're going to help you do all of that, right? We're going to help you do all of that. And the truth is, SpeakUpSis is going to be one of our case studies, because it stands out as one of the brands that I've seen embody so much energy from point A to point B, and it keeps evolving. Right. Evolution is a part of branding. In fact, let me say this: branding happens continuously, right? So there are three things I mentioned: brand, build, and scale. Your branding determines what you build, and how you build determines how you're going to scale. If you build wrongly, you cannot scale, right? So we want to help you get your branding right so that you can build right. And when you build right, you can scale your brand to any point. So it's about giving room to expansion, giving room to more multiplicity of ideas, multiplicity of inspiration. I've seen SpeakUpSis move from that idea of women finding a voice and speaking out to becoming something even more diversified, because the branding was repositioned in such a way that different ideas, different inspirations. In fact, SpeakUpSis is doing trainings on podcasting. All of those ideas were not there, right? But because the vision has expanded through branding, now she can do quite a whole lot of things. And this is what branding does for you. It uncaps your brand and positions it in such a way that you can do quite a lot of things while maintaining the originality and authenticity of what you're building, right? So it's a beautiful
Absolutely.
to talk about it, and we're going to dissect it, level it up and help you build by the books. Building
By
by the
the books. So, everyone, I know you all can hear just how passionate CJ is about branding. I don't think I have ever met another person who is a brand strategist or someone who deals with branding in whatever capacity be as passionate and consistent as CJ has been in the, I think we're going on like 3 years, or we've already surpassed 3 years. We're like 3.5 years in this thing together. So you all just need to hold tight. We are going to do some amazing things with this encouraging experts segment. And what I would like to do at this point is to help you all to get a better idea of what we're going to be doing with this particular segment. So, with the encouraging expert segment of the podcast, we are going to be inviting you, small business owners and entrepreneurs, to be our guests here on the encouraging expert segment of Speak Up Sis podcast. So each segment, we will have one business owner who will join us on camera, and we will allow you all to see that business owner's brand, whatever their logo is, whatever their mission, vision, whatever they're doing with their business. And the business owner is coming into this space in order to receive expert feedback and critique from CJ Benjamin. And remember, this is encouraging experts. So we're not on here to hurt anyone's feelings or make you feel badly or anything like that. What we're here to do is encourage you to continue doing what you're already doing and grow. We want to help you not only glow better and brighter, but we want you to grow and expand your brand by improving your branding. So we are going to be inviting small business owners and entrepreneurs. You must already have a business. You must be in the process of building. So you have to have something for us to take a look at. And you're going to come on Speak Up Sis Podcast for the encouraging expert segment. We're going to take a look at your brand, and we're going to give you some encouraging expert feedback about your brand. CJ is going to let you know some areas in which you could change some things up. He's going to give you some pointers as to some things you could potentially do in order to increase your brand marketability, if you will. Some things that you can do on your own. But let me tell you, ultimately, at some point, we want you to be able to get to a point where you can actually invest and have your own brand strategist, just like I have. But before that, or until then, we want to make sure that you get some really good feedback. You'll be able to ask questions during the segment, you'll be able to ask targeted and specific questions and get real answers as well. So if you are interested in being a guest on this segment of Speak Up Sis podcast, take a look at the scroll at the bottom of your screen. You can become a guest by visiting speakupsis.com/podcast. There's a button that says become a guest. Click it, submit the form, and we will get back to you. We are in the process of talking to some business owners to be guests on the show. So go ahead and get that done, because we only have about 5 spots available before the end of the year. So if you're interested in being a part of this segment, we want you to go ahead and get that done. So CJ, if you will, please let everybody know what they can expect from the segment, what they can expect from the critique, and tell them about what your process is going to be for these critiques. You got to unmute.
Right. We're going to be looking at a proper branding outline, right? We're going to look at what you've done so far and then help you understand the actual process of branding and what you need to do, right? So here's the process. When you're talking about branding, doing something how it should be done, there are actually about 5 levels that you need to consider. One is your brand essence. We need to look at your brand essence, right? Your brand essence, tries to, talk about your mission statement, your vision statement, talk about your core values, talk about your purpose, right? That's your brand essence. And also we look at your target audience. Who are your all of this is part of branding. I know it looks like it's not part of the branding, but this is actually what branding looks like, right? So the first step is your brand essence. And your brand essence talks about your vision, your mission, your core values, your brand purpose. Now, the second step of it is your target audience. Who are you targeting? Who is your brand meant for? Right. In your target audience, there's what we call your demographics, your psychographics, your pain points, and your goals, right? Your demographics, your psychographics, your pain point, and your goals. These people are the people that you are targeting, right? And then what is your goal for targeting them? And secondly, what are you trying to serve them? Very important. You don't just come out trying to sell to people without understanding what you are selling to them. So you need to understand who these people are. You need to even understand the age bracket, right? What age bracket are you targeting? What is their pain point? What are they craving for? And in this type of branding, we are not just talking about what you call needs. Needs are good, but we are talking about cravings. What is their pain point? What are those things that these people are craving for? Right? This is your part of branding. At this point, you are now trying to figure out if you need to tweak your product, if you need to tweak your service, if you need to tweak how you are serving whatever it is that you're serving. So it's very important. Right? Now, the next step talks about your unique value proposition. We need to look at what are you proposing to these people and how are you proposing. And we even need to look at your, what is called your position statement. Your position statement. What is that position statement that you are using to sell to people? Right? That's the third step. So it's quite a long one, but we're going to try and cut it short in such a way that you are able to get what you need at the point. So we're going to be looking at your brand essence, look at your target audience, look at your unique value proposition, and lastly, we're going to look at your visual identity. look at your visual identity. Is your visual identity scalable? Is it something that speaks a volume enough to connect with the people that you're targeting? And is your visual identity centric to your vision? There is something people do about visual identity. They try to they want everything in the vision to find expression in the logo. No, that's not how it's done, right? And I'm going to show you with an example that we have, which was the former logo of SpeakUpSis, where, because the brand talks about women speaking up, right, the founder decided that the person that's going to represent, or the icon or the image that's going to represent the visual identity, is a woman, a black woman with an afro hair and all of that. That is a limited version of what a scalable logo should look like, right? So what did we do? We went to the drawing board, looked at the vision, the mission, right? We looked at the brand essence, looked at the target audience, looked at the unique value proposition, and we curated something new, something that is scalable, something that has global centricity and global appeal, something that someone in Europe could look at it and say, okay, I understand what this woman is talking about. Someone in the US can say, okay, fine, I understand what she's talking about. She's not tribalistic. She's not racial. The logo has global feel. It has global presence. People from different parts of the world can see the logo and not feel like they are left out, or this is not for us, or this brand is too centric to a particular locality, or it's too centric to Black women, or it's too centric to a particular sect of people. Branding should be able to communicate with people, diverse people, without making the other people feel bad, or with making some particular set of people feel bad, or try to make them feel like they are not part of this. Don't come close to us. Don't talk to us. The brand is too, centric to a particular locality. So we're looking at your brand essence, which is critical. It talks about your vision, your mission, your brand purpose, and also talks about your brand. Move down to your target audience. Who are you trying to reach? What is the demographics? What is the psychographics? How do they think? How do they talk? How do they buy? Right? And what even makes them buy? There are people in a particular location that do not buy how the US guys buy, and people probably in Europe doesn't buy the way people in the US buy. So your branding has to be in such a way that it is able to feed people from different points, people from different touch points, without making the other people feel bad, especially if your brand is globally, going to find expression at a level. And we're looking at as well your value proposition. What are you selling? What are you giving to these people as a value? And you're telling them, okay, if we buy into your brand, this is what you're going to get from us. This is what you're going to enjoy from us. This is how you're going to feel when you buy from us, right? So we're going to be looking into all of those. And I know that a lot of people don't even have value proposition. They don't even know what their target audience are in terms of its psychographics and demographic. They're just, trying to build something, right? But we're trying to help you, go through the process so that you can build by the books and do something that you can be proud of. Right. So there are 5 things we're looking at: your brand essence, your target audience, right? We're looking at your value proposition, and we are also looking at your visual identity. Very important. And
Very
your visual
important.
is where we are putting all the energy on, because we want to help you really scale your brand, because there's something about business. Right. If you want to be believed, I always say this: if you want to be believed, you have to look believable. Right. If you want to be believed, you have to look believable. Stop trying to build something massive and then you're putting yourself so small trying to put yourself in a small corner that you can't express yourself, you can build beyond, because you've enclose yourself so much. You can't even go international because it's all centric to where you are or how you perceive something, right? So it's about expanding your mind, giving room to newness, right? So that you can be able to build the vision in such a way that people can really embrace you for what you're building.
Excellent. So, what I would like for you all to remember before we move into this example. So, we actually have an example of a brand that started one way and transitioned into something else. But before we show you that, and we want you to see what CJ is going to be talking to you about when you become a guest, I want to remind you that this is the introduction of our Encouraging Expert segment with CJ Benjamin, brand strategist extraordinaire, who's going to be my co-host for this segment. We are looking for businesses and entrepreneurs who are willing to come into the hot seat and join us here live on SpeakUpSis Podcast and allow us to take a look at your brand and help you out. CJ is going to give you feedback on those 5 pointers, those 5 pieces of branding he just talked to you about. He's going to give you some constructive, encouraging feedback about your brand, and he's going to give you tips on what you can do to level up your brand to help it to be more scalable until you're able to hire a brand strategist yourself. And if you would like to be considered to be a guest on Encouraging Experts, then please look at the bottom of the screen. You'll see Become a Guest. Visit speakupsis.com/podcast. The link is also on our Facebook that is in this live right now. And I pinned that comment for you. So you can click the link, go and select the button that says Become a Guest. Make sure you select Encouraging Experts on the form, and someone will reach out to you so that we can see about getting you on here. If you would like feedback. Now, if you think that your brand is perfect as it is and you're not going to take any constructive criticism or anything like that, this is probably not going to be this is not going to be the podcast segment for you to visit. This is not a segment for you to come push your brand and tell everybody what you do and promote your brand. This is for people who want to level up their branding and you want expert advice, feedback, suggestions, information to be able to help you do that. And we're going to do it here on the Encouraging Expert segment of SpeakUpSis Podcast. So we are going to show you SpeakUpSis. We're going to show you SpeakUpSis circa 2018 up until 2020, I believe. Is that correct, CJ? Did we begin? You got to unmute yourself. You keep forgetting to unmute yourself.
Okay, done.
Did we connect in 2020?
Yes, 2020.
It was 2020. So we're going to show you SpeakUpSis between 2018 and 2020. And then we're going to show you SpeakUpSis after I decided that I needed to do something different. I needed to do something that was scalable. So I am going to turn this over to CJ, our expert. And I want you all to pay very, very, very close attention, because this is what we're going to be doing for our guests when you all decide to come on to Encouraging Experts on SpeakUpSis Podcast. So let's go ahead and do this.
Okay, let's have the formal logo, right? So this was the almighty Afro hair SpeakUpSis logo, right? And there was a lot of emotions attached to this logo. Trust me, there was quite a whole lot of emotions attached to it because even after this logo was changed, she wanted to revert to it. And I understood that when she was struggling to, she loved the new logo. Trust me, it's not about the work that was done. It was perfect. She loved it. But there is something about being used to something and also being so emotional about your vision that you don't want to leave where you started from. So here was the logo, and it speaks so much volume about the background of the idea, right? So I believe this was a black woman with her hair trying to, probably portray the kind of energy she was trying to communicate. A black woman, the idea obviously was for black women to speak up, to, allow their voices to be heard. But the
And that
limitation
afro
was that,
denotes power and strength and history and yes, all of that.
okay, all of that, right? And you can see all the colors, all the butterflies and stuff. So here's the thing. A logo needs to be simple, memorable, and iconic, if you will. Simplicity is critical in designing a logo. It needs to be memorable, right? And it also needs to be scalable. If a logo is memorable, this logo is actually memorable, right? Is memorable. But is it scalable? In terms of scalability, you need to consider your vision, right? So probably you personally in your business, you must have started doing what you're doing, your brand, your vision. It could be a venture, it could be a startup. I don't know what it is. You know what it is, right? But the thing about designing a logo is that it has to be scalable. And the scalability deals with your vision being able to expand from one point to another without having a layback or a drawback because of, you know, the logo does not have the strength to move into the future. And this is what it was for this logo. It does not have that strength to move into the future. Anywhere you take it to, people are going to know that, in fact, the truth about it is that it does not truly communicate the entire idea of SpeakUpSis, right? It was just a biased idea. The logo is biased, one, right? And one thing with vision is sometimes you get a vision and you think your vision is about one thing without knowing that your vision sometimes is 100 MB, 100 megabytes, but what you've caught about the vision already is more like a 10 KB. I don't know if you've tried to download a big file. When you try to download a big file, it always starts small, right? 1 KB, 3 KB, 10 KB, right? And you're still downloading something that probably is about 100 MB. That's what your vision is like. Sometimes you start downloading the vision and you think what you already have in your hand is what it's all about. No, that vision is just a glimpse. What you have already in your hand is just a glimpse. The idea is that the path of the just would have to shine brighter and brighter. So sometimes you start out doing something, you think this is where it's going to end. Your assignment is in stages. Your assignment is in segments, right? Sometimes you might start out somewhere thinking this is the catch. This is not the catch. This is what, let me put it this way. This is what God is giving to you so that you can be able to manage your excitement at this level. And so that you will not be so stressed thinking of how you're going to do the big picture without knowing that, okay, there is someone who has the bigger picture. You've just been given a glimpse to be able to do it at this point because If you have all the idea fully formed, you will get scared of it. So the idea is to get started. And this is the reason why sometimes you might just need to start with a little logo like this. You might just need to go on, probably on Canva, do something, just get started. It's important to get started. But once you've started, you need to make sure that your brand is properly branded so you can build accurately. When you're properly branded, you can build accurately. And when you start building accurately, you can scale whatever it is that you're doing. So the idea about having your business, having your brand properly branded is for scalability, right? If you're not properly branded, you're going to remain at one point without moving to the next point. You might just be at the level of your 10 KB data and you need to move to 100 megabytes, but you are still stuck in one point because you just thought this is all there is about the vision. No, this is not all there is about the vision. This is just your starting point. Don't stay in your starting point forever. And this is what a lot of people do. They start a brand, they start a vision, they start whatever it is that they've started, and they allow themselves to stay there for too long without moving to the next level. And when you stay there for too long, you become accustomed to principles. You get accustomed to how you used to do it. You get accustomed to your previous mentality about what business is, what brand should be, what design should be, what system should be. You are not giving yourself room to expand. Right. So the idea is having a professional who can look at what you're doing and tell you, okay, this is how to do it. This is how to go about it. This is how to create a system for your brand. This is how to expand your brand. This is how to give your brand a framework that is going to be able to impact the future. Right. So this is quite important. Now, I'm going to show you what a new branding looks like and what was done actually. So we're going to go to showing you the new SpeakUpSis brand. You've seen, right? You've seen. Good. So here's the new look for SpeakUpSis. Here's the new look. So we looked at the brand. We discovered that there's so much things happening in the brand. There's so much things. There's so much things. And when I mean so much things, sometimes when you study a brand, you need to make sure that you are not limiting yourself, right? When you're doing branding, you need to make sure that you are not limiting yourself. And one of the things that we did was to look at the brand, and we discovered that this Afro head is going to be so limiting that this brand is not going to move forward. So we need to go neutral. We need to put the brand in such a way that someone in Africa can appreciate the brand, somebody in the United States can appreciate the brand, somebody in Europe can appreciate the brand, someone in Asia can appreciate the brand, right? So we decided to remove all the cultural, historical elements of power, of probably essence, right? Of probably, history. We removed all of those and we decided to standardize the brand. And what did we do? We looked at some keywords in the brand. One of the keywords in the brand is speak up, right? Speak up. Speak up. That is the first thing. Speak up. You have to speak up. So we decided that we're going to create something that deals with speaking, right? Something that deals with speaking, but we're not going to use a human. We're not going to use a human voice. We're not going to use a mouth, those things that looks generic. No, we're going to do something that is iconic, right? So this logo is symbolic. It's symbolic. If you look at it, it looks like a sound wave, but most importantly, it also gives you an ear, an ear sound where someone is releasing the sound, the ears is hearing. So you are speaking, somebody is hearing you and getting feedback and is being inspired to probably share their own story. So it's about the sound, it's about what is being shared, it's about what is being received, and the fact that what is received can go back and also inspire others. So that is what we did. We needed something that is globally appealing, something that people from different parts of the world can see and appreciate it. It is not culturally centric. It is not speaking to a particular set of people that's going to feel entitled to the brand. So at this point, SpeakUpSis is not just for the locality where it was formed, is now a global brand. SpeakUpSis now has people coming from different parts of the world coming to events in the United States to be part of what she's building, because the vision is beyond that locality, right? People came from Africa last time to attend the award. That means the brand is no longer something that is centric to that particular locale. The brand has evolved. People from different parts of the world can feel it, can feel the weight of the vision. The brand that has the magazine, the brand that has a lot of different facets, because the brand was positioned in such a way that it can express itself. It can find expression, what is called multiplicity of expressions, without diluting the essence of the brand. And this is the point where you tell yourself that your brand needs to find standardization in terms of branding. If you want to go global, you need to make sure that your brand can pass the test of universality. Your brand must pass the test of universality. And what that means is that people from different parts of the world can see your brand and appreciate it. Not just people in a particular location. If your brand is designed for people in a particular location, that means it's going to be limited, right? There is nothing wrong building for a particular location, but make sure that your brand is actually designed for that. We discovered that the SpeakUpSis brand was not something that is just designed for a particular locality. So it cannot be embodying some sort of historical element. It has to embody an element that is global, that is universal, that can impact people from different parts of the world. Women from different parts of the world, people from different parts of the world can become part of the SpeakUpSis without any form of limitation, right? So we moved ahead. We
CJ,
did a brand.
I want to take a pause just for a moment for those people who are just tuning in to SpeakUpSis Podcast right now, so that they know what it is that we're doing. Is that okay?
Right.
All right. So this is the encouraging experts segment of SpeakUpSis Podcast. And for the encouraging expert segment, I bring a co-host to be the expert. And this year's co-host is our brand strategist extraordinaire, CJ Benjamin, the lead strategist of the Brand Room. And he is going to be joining me every fourth Tuesday here on SpeakUpSis Podcast for the Encouraging Experts segment. And we are inviting small business owners and entrepreneurs who are interested in creating memorable, scalable, iconic brands. You're looking at growing and glowing your brand. We're inviting you to be a guest on the Encouraging Expert segment. And what CJ is doing right now is a case study, if you will. He's showing you what it looks like to start with a brand, which is what this is here. This was the SpeakUpSis logo, the SpeakUpSis icon at the very beginning in 2018. It spoke to Black women. It was like, speak up, sis. It was like, you are a whole butterfly. You are colorful. You are bold. That's what I was thinking when I started this, right? Community for women. But because I am a Black woman, I put Black woman face out there. even though I knew Speak Up Sis was bigger than just, Black women speaking up, but people, right, speaking up. And so 2 years after starting Speak Up Sis, I met CJ and realized that Speak Up Sis was so much bigger than where it was. And so he is showing you now what we did to make Speak Up Sis iconic, to make Speak Up Sis memorable, to make Speak Up Sis simple and yet scalable. So if you're just tuning in, that is what we're doing. And so at first, we wanted you to see where the brand began, and we are showing you where the brand currently is. And so when you become a guest on Encouraging Experts, CJ is going to take your right now brand and he is going to critique it for you. He's going to give you feedback on it. He's going to let you know whether it's meeting the simple, memorable, scalable, iconic, Richter scale, if you will. And if it's not, he's going to give you some tips and strategies and things that you could potentially consider doing in order to make your brand simple, memorable, scalable, and iconic, at least the visual component. So I am going to turn it back over to CJ, but I wanted you all who are just tuning in to get a better idea of what we are talking about and what CJ is talking about. CJ, the floor is yours.
So we have the new brand, right? So I want to show you about the scalability of the SpeakUpSis brand, because one of the things I mentioned, I mentioned simplicity. It has to be simple, it has to be memorable, it has to be scalable. And I want to talk about the scalability. And in the scalability of the SpeakUpSis brand, we have something. Okay, let me just show you a little bit of what this brand went through. This is a document that explains everything, right? So you have the pleasure and privilege to actually see the SpeakUpSis brand book, right? So this was how the icon was created. So here is this. In branding, we try to make sure that what is being created, is not something that was thrown down from the backside of nowhere. And, you just mumbled it out from, the backside of nowhere and you put it there, or probably you copied it from Google, or you copied it from somewhere, or Pinterest, or you copied it from Dribble and you decided to use it. Don't do that, right? Don't do that. Don't go, on the internet and copy something someone created and you decide to use it. Trust me, you are breaching copyright and licensing. You might just be getting into trouble with all of that. So a lot of people do that, but don't do it. So here we try to make sure that the brand has a story, right? So what you're seeing here is how the brand was created. The Swave was created specifically for SpeakUpSis, and there is a meaning attached to it. So what this brand book does is to explain everything in the branding process and how it was achieved, right? So you see the design process, how the curves were achieved, everything was on point, right? This is the word mag. This is the logo explanation. This is the font. Your font has to be known, and you have to retain it in everything you're doing. I'm talking about your typography. That's your font, right? So this is how to use the font, how to use the big the big or the bold font, and how to use the small font without misplacing everything. So everything is on point. You have a brand.
CJ, go back to the color palette and talk to them about color palette. One thing I notice about a lot of small businesses and new entrepreneurs is they just want all the colors. Every graphic is a different color. Their logo is different colors depending on what graphic is on. Can you talk a little bit about the color palette, because you actually took all of the colors that were in the butterflies and you just kind of got rid of those and gave me
Right.
gave Speak Up Sis this sort of very, very standard and simplistic color palette. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the color palette?
Okay, great. So the first thing, because I like to talk about relatability, the first thing about colors that you need to make sure you adhere to, the first principle is that the color is not for you, right? I meet this every other time. I meet it as it's a big issue where the founder or the CEO of the brand wants the color that is going to be used to be the particular color that he or she likes. And here's what I tell you. The brand is not about you. The brand is about the market. And if the brand is about the market, then you need to deploy color palette that is centric to the market and to the brand. So remove yourself from the picture, remove your emotions from the picture, remove, I call these things nuisance. Anything that does not appreciate the market, appreciate the brand, and tries to take the place of these two is a nuisance. So you can even be the nuisance, once your brand is involved. So here's what I tell people: remove your emotions, remove every form of nuisance. Let the focus, let the limelight be on the brand and the market. So here we chose two colors. There are a lot of colors in the previous logos, but we decided to take just two, right? And if you check the colors, you discover that one is thick and the other is lighter. And I'm saying all of this because I see a lot of people that want to use two lighter colors. You want to use, two lighter colors in one brand. That doesn't work. So we try to balance it. First, I'm trying to just, use everyday things that I see when, doing business with people, when trying to consult. People want to use probably yellow, use green, colors that are not related to that particular brand expression. So one of the things that you need to look at is make sure that the colors that you're choosing is not about you, is about the market, and is about your brand. The brand and not about you. So remove your emotions. In case you love green, your brand doesn't have to be green. In case you love, let's assume you love red, your brand doesn't have to be red. Let the color palette that you're choosing be centric to your brand and the market, right? So we chose, because of the brand is targeted to women centrally, we decided to use one, a darker shade of purple and a light shade of pink, right? Which is going to attract the people that the brand is designed for. We did not use all the colors, all the rainbow-like colors in the previous. No, we did not use that. We decided to choose just two. And I tell people it's better to use either one color, use either one color or two colors at most, right? Use either one color or two colors at most, unless your brand is multifaceted, right? Just like we've seen brands like Google. Google has different colors. It has up to 3-4 colors. But if you're going to use 3-4 colors, you must make sure that it's being professionally applied. And a lot of mind needs to go into it and make sure that those colors are deployed strategically without making it look childish, right? And this is where the branding process also takes place. The team that is curating the brand has to look at it, strategize, and make sure that whatever is being deployed is quite, professional enough to move into the market. So sometimes when you're doing professional branding, all of this is done by the company that is doing it. You're not going to do it. So they're going to do all the strategy, all the, mind mapping, market mapping, decode the kind of colors that's going to be used. Sometimes we ask you what colors you like, but at the end of the day, we might change it based on the brand, based on the vision, right? And most often than not, people tell us do something that is appealing to the vision, and that's what we always do. So in case you're branding or doing something, please do not try to use your emotions to cloud the entire color palette journey. Allow the brand to have a feel of itself and a feel of the market. So it's not about you, it's about the market, right?
I think it's also
So
important to say to people to not look at another brand that
right,
you think that you like and copy their colors, because even if you're doing something similar, it's not the same.
right. Absolutely. No two visions are the same. So you might like a color, it might your brand might be doing the same thing with the other brand, but make sure that your choices are based or they are centric to your vision, right? And sometimes even if you're choosing a brand color outside there, or probably you're copying a color, sometimes the color codes might not need to be the same thing. There has to be a color code to your color palette so that it can retain its authenticity, it can retain its feel, and it can be deployed accurately. So sometimes when we're giving you a brand book, we are giving you the entire booklet that has the details of the color palette inclusive, which I'm going to show you right away. So here is the opacity of the colors, right? So there are different shades of the colors that can be used. So this is important. So even if you're copying a color out there is something unique about your own brand that you need to retain and maintain, right? So everything you're doing is centric to your brand. Don't just copy a color out there and you think it's going to match your own brand. No, don't do that. Allow your brand to have the feel of its own. Let your brand have the feel of its own. So there is one more thing I want to talk about, which is scalability. And that's where I'm going to go talking about the brand architecture, and we're going to call it a day, right? So here's the SpeakUpSis brand architecture. So when we were talking, we said that every brand has to be, when you're designing your logo, it has to be simple, right? It has to be memorable, it has to be scalable, and it has to be iconic. So you've heard about it being iconic. We have an iconic design. We have a memorable design, right? It's simple, but scalability. Here's where scalability comes in. And this is where I want to talk about the brand architecture. Your brand architecture actually helps you to fit in your brand in such a way that it can accommodate different, expressions. So the SpeakUpSis brand have different expressions. And in order to bring all of these expressions into the brand, we needed to create a brand architecture. And here's what the brand architecture does, is to segment your brand in such a way that there is going to be, what I call uniformity, and yet having a separate expression. So the SpeakUpSis has a brand architecture, which the main brand or the parent brand is SpeakUpSis. But then in the brand architecture, there is the SpeakUpSis bookshelf, There is the SpeakUpSis merch. There is the SpeakUpSis conference. There is the SpeakUpSis podcast, right? So in order to give the brand a room to be scalable, to be able to run all of its visions without confusing the people, without confusing the audience, we needed to put them in a brand architecture that fits in properly to what the brand is doing. So the SpeakUpSis is the brand, the parent brand, but within the parent brand, there are subsets of the brand, like the SpeakUpSis bookshelf, SpeakUpSis podcast, SpeakUpSis conference, SpeakUpSis magazine, right? So the brand keeps expanding because it finds an architecture that is able to deploy different expressions of the brand without forming any form of confusion. So one of the advantages of a brand architecture is to give your brand the room to find expression without confusion. So anytime the SpeakUpSis brand wants to host an event, it will first of all ask the question, where does this event fall into? Or where does this fall into? Is it the SpeakUpSis magazine? Is it the SpeakUpSis bookshelf? Is it the SpeakUpSis conference? Is it a podcast? So your brand is organized in such a way that there's no confusion. People understand that this brand is segmented in such a way that, yes, we can understand it. And this is what every brand that is growing, that wants to be scalable, needs to understand. Your brand has to be in uniformity without, you doing a lot of things without people knowing actually what you're doing. So that's very important. And that's what we're going to, call it a day and give our final word. Give your brand a room to be scalable without confusion. And this is what brand architecture does for you. You can do a lot, yet doing one thing. You can do a lot, yet doing one thing. Thank you.
Gosh, there was so much. There was so much goodness in this.
So someone has a question.
We are now at the Q&A part of the segment. And this is when you all are able to ask questions. I do want to remind you that you all have the ability to become a guest on the Encouraging Expert segment of SpeakUpSis Podcast. We are currently looking for small business owners and entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs who have a brand, and maybe you would like to get your brand critiqued, get some professional feedback, suggestions, tips, advice about making your brand memorable, scalable, simple, and iconic. And all you have to do is visit us at speakupsis.com/podcast and click the Become a Guest button, submit the form. We'll get back to you and see if you're a good fit to come on the show and get some feedback from our expert, CJ Benjamin. So Tanya Bagwell, CJ, has a question. She says, hello. Hi, Tanya. She says, how do I go about starting a brand?
All right. So first off, I'm going to say this. A brand is how you solve a problem. I'm just going to say that starting a brand is how you solve problems, right? So one of the ways to start a brand is to decide the problem you want to solve. And once you've decided the problem you want to solve, then the next thing you do is to call that brand a name, or to call that problem a name. Once you call that problem a name, you are on your way to starting a brand. So the first thing is to find a particular problem that you want to solve, or discover the problem. So find or discover the problem and call it a name. Once you call it a name, you are already starting a brand. right? So that's the basic thing I'm going to say. But here is the other things I want to say is that you need to discover your purpose or your mission. It could be personal brand, it could be a business brand, whichever one it is. Discover the mission and the vision of that brand. Discover the mission, the vision, and the purpose of that particular brand, that particular problem you want to solve. Once you can define it, discover it, define it, you've already started. So what is that problem? You see a problem in the society, you see a particular pain point in the society, discover it, define it. Don't just discover it, define it. What is it about? Right? And how do you intend to solve that problem? Once you've done this, discover it, define it, then call it a name. You are already on your way to starting a brand. There is no mysterious way to it. First thing, just find that problem you've seen. You've seen a problem in the society and you want to solve that problem. Define it. Give it a scope. For
All right.
example, the SpeakUpSis brand,
That's what I was.
right? Right.
That's what I
The
was gonna
SpeakUpSis
say.
brand. So once she discovered a problem that she wanted to solve, she wanted to create a platform that gives people, that opportunity to speak up, to help their voices to be heard, right? And then be an inspiration to others. So once you've discovered that thing, call it a name. She called it Speak Up Sis, right? She called it a name, and the brand already started. So define the problem, define it, call it a name. You're already on your way to starting it.
He
So it's as
also
simple as that.
mentioned a vision and a mission. And I just want to add a little something there for you. I think oftentimes we interchange those two words, but they're actually very different, people. The vision and the mission are not interchangeable. Your vision is actually you know what? Your vision is actually something that's not actually attainable. It's something your brand is always going to be reaching for. The vision is what keeps making you scalable. It's the reason you keep creating new spaces, opportunities, products, and things, because you're constantly reaching for that. For example, the vision of Speak Up Sis is that we're your premier financial supporter of Kingdom Visions. Guess what? That's not something we're ever going to attain and never do. We're always going to be funding visions, right? Period. But then your mission is what the brand does to reach or to attain the vision.
Right.
So the mission of Speak Up Sis is that we create spaces and provide opportunities for everyday people to share their stories, to build resilience, and to inspire the stories of others. So how are we reaching the vision of financially supporting Kingdom Visions? We are creating all of these spaces and we're providing people opportunities so that they can build wealth, build their businesses, and do what it is they believe God has called them to do. So I just wanted to make sure that we are all very clear that a vision and a mission, a vision statement and a mission statement, they're not synonymous. They are different. And so when you're thinking about starting a brand, once you figure out, okay, what is the problem that people are having that I believe God has called me to produce something to help with, and then you give it a name, then if you say that he's giving you a vision, it's something that you're going to spend your life, or your brand, the life of the brand is going to be aspiring for that as long as that brand is alive. And then your mission is going to be what people are actually going to run with, right? It's what the brand is going to be doing. So prayerfully, these explanations are helping with that. Tamika says, oh gosh, this is a lot right here. Writing. We have a vision and mission. We understand what we want, struggling to gain the space to be heard or seen. How did we get there? Are you asking um how did you get to the place where you have a vision and a mission, but you're struggling to gain space? Maybe it has something to do with the branding. Maybe the way that you're branded is, the spaces that can sort of propel you forward. Maybe they don't see it as a good fit. Maybe what you're presenting to them doesn't really align with what they're doing. And that could be a part of the visual aesthetics. I'll tell you just straight away, because I create spaces and provide opportunities, I look at brands, y'all. And if you notice, I don't promote every brand. It's not that what the people are saying they want to do is bad. It's not that it's not something wonderful. But sometimes I look at brands and I go, it looks like it was made yesterday. It is not presented in a way that I believe fits my brand. And I think that's another thing we have to understand as business owners, is that we are trying to catch the eye of other brands that have visions, other brands that have missions, right? And so you're trying to position your brand so that another brand will grab it up. But if it's not, if it's not memorable, if it's not simple, if it's not scalable, if it's not iconic, then you may find some issues with, platforms wanting to pull you up to be able to get that. So, she says, the question is, how do we get there? So I think that CJ, did you want to add something to that? Her question is.
I just want to add to what you said. Although the question, there's a lot of clarity issues, to the question. But let me say this. Let me assume that she's saying that she's looking out for a way to be heard and be seen, right? How to get there. So here's what I tell people, and I've said it, that if you want to be believed, you have to look believable. And the reason is because I study a lot of brands and I study a lot of people trying to do business. But the way they structure their business, the way they try to promote their business, there is no way somebody is going to buy into what you're doing with the energy that you're pushing out there, with the way you are promoting that business. I've discovered that a lot of people have vision. Vision is not the problem because it's free, right? Dreaming is free, so anybody can dream, everybody can dream. But what gives your vision authenticity is your ability to craft that vision in a presentable way that people can see it and appreciate it. So your vision, whatever you're doing needs to be presented in such a way that it's going to unlock humility in the hearts of people. And how do you do it? That's what branding does. When people see it, they are humble to associate with you, right? That's the trick. That's the trick about branding, right? We're not saying that you need to show what you are not. No, we're saying that you have the content. We assume that you have the content. We assume that you have the vision. You have the capacity to do the vision. Can you now do it in such a way that these people that you are called to, these people that you're trying to serve, can look at what you're doing and they appreciate it? And in doing that, you need to put your best foot forward, right? If you want to get people's attention, trust me, we are in an attention economy. Everybody is looking for attention. Every business is looking for attention. What are you going to do to draw that attention? The problem is not the people. The problem is how you're trying to get to the people. If you do not put your best foot forward to get to the people are not going to be reached. So what are you doing? Questions needs to be asked. What are you doing? How are you doing it? Are you positioning yourself well? If you do not position yourself well, people are not going to come to you, because there's a lot of people doing what you're doing, even though you don't know. There are a lot of people doing it, right? Over 5,000 plus businesses are started every month in the United States. And what is going to make your business unique? What is going to make it stand out? Trust me, you need to do something different. You need to do something. What are you doing differently that's going to attract the attention of people? We're not saying that you need to, do something wrong. No, within the framework of what is right, how are you putting your brand in such a way that it's going to unlock humility in the hearts of people? Vision is not enough. Vision is not enough. Everyone has vision. If you ask anybody out there, they've got a vision. But what are you doing to gain that attention that is going to draw people to experience the uniqueness of what you are offering? That is the purpose of branding. The branding is to help you get out there, right? Is to help you get out there and connect with people, connect with your market, have a market share, have a brand equity in the market, get a chunk of the market to yourself, because you are positioning right. You are branding right. You are branding, you're building, and you're scaling. So when you get your branding right, you build accurately. And when you build accurately, you can scale to the next point.
Yeah. And I must say, consistency is so important. I feel like I meet people who have wonderful vision. They feel like they're doing all the things, but they are not consistent, and that work ethic is not solid, right? And you've got to stick to it. I don't know if you all realize how many times CJ does, because he gets to work with me behind the scenes. But there are times when I want to do something different. And I'm like, maybe I'll try this. Like, I don't think they're seeing it. What about this? Or I'll say, okay, I would like this graphic produced, or I want this thing. And they'll create something. And I'll be like, I don't know. I think I want something different. And then he has to say, like, Angel, no, you don't need something different. This is your brand. This is your brand's identity. This is Speak Up Sis. And there's a consistency with sticking to what you have worked to create. And once you have the brand that is simple and memorable and scalable and iconic, you've got to stick with it. Even when you see all these other brands pop up that you think look better than yours, I promise you, I see people start things. I'm like, gosh, that's so cool. Or maybe if I do this, or I'll see people who will start and it seems like everybody is running to them. I have to remember what the vision of Speak Up Sis is, what the mission is. I have to have belief and faith in the brand that was created, right? And then I have to be consistent with it. So that's just a little tiny bit of extra. If someone else has a question, you've got like 5 seconds to type it in the box, and we will address one last question if anyone has a question. And while you are typing, if you have a question, I'd like to say thank you all for joining both me and CJ, my co-host for this year's Encouraging Experts. We are talking branding for Encouraging Experts for the remainder of 2024. And we are inviting small businesses or budding entrepreneurs to come into the space and receive encouraging expert advice from our brand strategist, CJ Benjamin. Let me tell you, this is what he is going to do for you and your brand here during this episode. People pay real good money to get. So to be able to come into this space, put your brand up here, allow him to critique it, give you feedback, to be encouraged by me. Y'all know I'm a whole encourager here, but he is going to give you the nuts and bolts of what it takes for you to get what you're looking for. Okay. So Tamika says she is grateful. Thank you so much, Tamika, for engaging with us tonight. I want to shout you out, sis. If you are interested in being a guest on Encouraging Experts, please let me know and we will make sure that you get your brand on this screen and CJ can give you some feedback about it. CJ, I am going to let you give some last words. We're going to wrap. And you all, please don't forget, Speak Up Sis Podcast is back. And we are releasing episodes on the first, second, third, and fourth Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please be on the lookout. If you like to listen to us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast, please. We're back in the building. You can watch us on YouTube. Make sure you're following Speak Up Sis on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. And the Encouraging Expert section or segment, is going to be every fourth Tuesday of the month. So CJ, would you like to wrap up with something for the people?
All right, and this is what I have to say, that the power of a brand is in its global appeal. Whatever you're building, make sure that you are stretching yourself far beyond, right? The goal is to be borderless, to be, globally appealing in such a way that people from different parts of the world can feel the weight of your energy, experience the goodness, your intelligence, your brilliance, your anointing. Whatever it is you're doing, it's about the word in its essence, feeling the weight of what you're doing. And don't forget, branding here, we're talking about memorability. It has to be simple, it has to be iconic, but most importantly, whatever you're doing has to be scalable. And that's what we're trying to get you to do, right? It's time to build a global brand, create global appeal, and move forward. So we're going to see next time. In case you want to talk about your brand even before the next episode, reach out to Angel or search me out on Facebook. Go search CJ Benjamin. Let's talk. Let's connect. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. And with that, we thank you for tuning in to Speak Up Sis Podcast for our Encouraging Expert segment. Until next time, please do not forget to open up your mouth and speak up. Y'all take care and have a wonderful evening.